Hey, welcome back, everybody, to Telemedicine Talks. I am very excited to have this guest on today. This is Dr. Kristine Goins. She's a board certified integrative adult and pediatric psychiatrist, physician coach, and digital nomad. Having served in several healthcare settings and various leadership positions within academic centers, Dr. Goins has witnessed firsthand the impact that burnout, stress, and work life imbalance can have on doctors' lives. And motivated by a desire to make a difference, Dr. Goins founded Nomad MD, where she helps burnout doctors replace their income remotely and build freedom first careers, working less and living anywhere. Dr. Goins, thank you for joining us. This is amazing. I'm excited. This is right down our alley. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, I'm super excited. I think the first time I ran into you and your platform and what you do is I was doom scrolling Instagram and just looking about like Dr. Burnout and just thinking about when we were starting this podcast.
Mhm.
Because one of the main things this podcast was built of was to help doctors get into telemedicine because of all the above. So,
Mhm.
I'd love to hear your story and how you became to be and how you found that out.
Yeah, I think the initial pieces were in childhood because I wanted to be a doctor since I was 8. But I also grew up as a teenager reading books by a certain author, Eric Jerome Dickey, and he wrote fiction novels on Black professional polyglots who used to travel all over the world. So in my mind growing up, I was always like, how am I going to live both of these lives at the same time? I didn't really understand how I was going to figure that out. But when you move into medicine, you realize pretty quickly that a lot of time that lifestyle just takes over everything else that you might want to do. Everything becomes so dedicated in terms of your time, your energy, your resources to that career. And so I was always like looking for the time where things were going to shift. And I feel like a lot of times in training, we think, oh, maybe it's after training. Like once we become an
Yeah.
attending,
Yeah.
then it's going to happen. So that was my thought. I just kind of kept moving through and I would find spaces to travel in the midst. Like the summer after med school, we had that little break and I went to Costa Rica and that was my first time ever going abroad. I went to my fellowship program because I knew they were going to allow me to go away. So I spent a month in like a Tibetan monastery studying meditation. So I would always try to like find a way to do it. And then when I became an attending, I was like, okay, now it's going to work. And I was so busy. I was working in 10 clinics a week. I was associate program director for a fellowship. I was chairing the DI committee. I was like doing all these amazing things that were part of what I felt my purpose in medicine was. But I was so exhausted and burnt out. And it showed up like chest pain in the middle of clinics, like going
Yeah.
from one to another. It showed up like headaches. All of a sudden, I could barely sleep. And then I started to have spasms throughout my body. And I ended up in a neurologist's office, really scared, maybe have come down with a neurological disorder that I can't get rid of. So 30 seconds into the appointment, I'm like, oh my gosh, work is so stressful. I don't know what to do. And he just like cuts me off. He's like, look, I can prescribe you some Lexapro. And I was just so confused. I was just like, but why? It's really this job that's just driving me nuts. And he's like, yeah, but you're not going to quit, are you? And just like that kind of response, especially as a psychiatrist, I was like, no, there's like something else needs to change because the true imbalance is not serotonin. It's like this lifestyle that I've created, this career that I'm in. And so that's when I decided to book a one-way trip to Colombia, a one-way ticket, and give my 4 months to the academic center. I was like, no, this is not how it's going to end up for me.
You make a few good points, right? We go into this and it's always what's next, right? Like in med school, it's okay, it's going to be great when you're attending. Or hey, once fellowship is over, I'm going to have time. But you're right. Once we hit the grind of being what I call the clinical monkey, right? It's downhill from there, right? And then
Yeah.
after that, it's like, oh, then when I retire, right? And it's like, wait, that's what, 65, 75? Shoot, doctors die in clinic in the ERs
Mhm.
practicing. There's never really an end. And it's awesome to hear, one, I'm sorry to hear that's how you got your revelation while you were having somatic symptoms in the office. but not a lot of us can make that connection, or not a lot of us have the strength or really the balls to just do what you did and be like, "Nope, I'm out. Cut. This is what I want." So how do you approach that when you have providers coming to you and be like, "Hey, I'm having anxiety attacks. I'm doing this," but they really can't see or don't realize that this is a realistic option?
Yeah. A lot of times docs will start with like, okay, what remote jobs are available or how much do they pay or how many
Yeah,
licenses
yeah.
do I need? But I feel like a lot of times it's really about starting with what kind of life am I trying to build? Like
Love
what
that.
kind of career do I
Mhm.
actually want? And I feel like when we start with those kind of questions, we get so much closer to what we want as individuals rather than like a cookie cutter idea of what feels like it's possible or what can be given to us. We're so used to like following the algorithm, and I think asking ourselves those questions, like if I could design my ideal life 5 years from now, 1 year from now, 2 years from now, what would it look like? Like, where do you want to wake up? How much do you want to work? What do you want your Tuesdays to look like? And I think once you design the life, you design the career to support it.
I love that. I love that. It's really shifting the focal point, right? And we talk about this all the time, but yeah, us as professionals, doctors, and not even just doctors, just professionals in total, right? Our calendars are first filled with jobs, right? What do we do? And then our whole lives, or what's left of it, right, is filled in the tiny little pieces in the periphery, in the nooks and crannies. And sometimes there isn't any nooks and crannies, right? So, no, that's amazing. And so now looking at your bio and talking with you shortly, you've been in a lot of places, right? You're right now in Guadalajara. Amazing. Kind of shifting focus a little. What's the favorite place that you've been in, and what's the most awesomest experience that you've had since you've realized like this is what you want to do?
Yeah, there's been quite a few, but I would say some of my favorite places to live have been I really love living in South Africa. I'm a wine professional, so I'm like really partial to wine regions, especially ones with the ocean nearby. So for me, South Africa is just amazing. And then also Bocas del Toro, the archipelago off the coast of Panama. That's like one of my homes away from home. I love when you can just get in a water taxi and go spend time with dolphins, like on a regular day. Like that's like the life I love.
That's amazing. And when people listen to this, they're like, "Oh yeah, that's great and everything," but then how do you make it work? Where do the financials come in? It's scary, right? Especially if people have families, people that depend on them.
And then also to add to that too, Leo, like, how did you deal with kind of the mindset shift of like I think one of the things Leo and I have realized of working with so many doctors kind of in the same boat is there's a really weird identity shift. Like you said,
Oh,
since you were 8, you wanna be a doctor. You have this really, really, really regimented path. What happens when you finally get your first job and you're like, "I actually don't really like this," or, "I really wanna change." It's hard. Like, how did you even do not just the financial, but just like the
Yeah.
identity shift that, like, I kinda am stepping away from the day-to-day clinical work.
Yeah. I think for me, it was really about not making my career my whole entire life. Because we spend so many years in training and, like, when I calculate, I'm like 16 years is a long time to train to get to a certain
yeah.
point. I think in that process, so much of our identity become about work and about our career, and I think it's about moving into the other pieces of the life that you really love. Like, I think it's making space for all of that. One of the first things that I did was I made all the things that I love number 1, and I put work into the cracks of that. So wherever I could fit work, if I try to fit it in, but it's not everything. And I think making that flip is important, even if it means that in the beginning, it's just, how do I take an hour a week to go figure out what I like again, to go swimming, like to join a group, like to go back to what your passions are outside of your career, because I think that's what for me makes life more fulfilling. I enjoy work so much more when it's just one of the things that I do. It's not all of, my week and all that I do. But definitely the financial piece was probably the scariest piece for me because, as a doctor, like we're so regimented. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what about student loans? What about my
Yeah.
retirement? Like all of these things. And I'm like, my greatest fear was like, I go to Colombia and then I end up broke under a bridge and I can't eat, or like some just radical thing that doesn't make sense happens. What I did in that situation with that fear is I decided to flip the question on its head. And I said, Kristine, what if you living this life that you want to live is the way that you fast track yourself to financial freedom? Like, what if that's possible? How would that
Yeah.
happen? And I think it gave my brain some work to do that was actually way more constructive. And that's what I did. I found that moving to other countries and engaging in the cultures I wanted to be a part of and having this free time really allowed me to, one, spend the day like having that satisfaction and joy that actually helps you to be more effective and present when you do work. It actually gives you the space to be more creative and innovative around how to make money. And for me, it also led to me making a similar income, if not more, but my expenses cut down to less than a third of what they were living in DC. And so it was so much easier to fast track myself to financial freedom with that path than even staying where I was.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we get that a lot. It's funny how it does flip, right? But it's that flip, that identity shift, that whole changing the construct of where you're looking at things. Cause it is funny. Now, personally, I switched. Yeah, it changed, right? And it was hard. It was scary at first. You're like, oh, I'm going to dive deep and we don't know where the bottom is. And how are we going to make it happen? And I think we talked, Phoebe, a lot about this. You just got to dive head in, right? You have to go stop thinking like a doctor sometimes, where our threshold for risk is what, less than 1%, right? And just go. But that's just so hard for us sometimes because we are such a risk adverse population. It's tough.
It's hard though. Again, we're all conditioned, right? And like, Dr. Goins, you'll get this because you're a psychiatrist, but like we're all conditioned from childhood to like, again, you work in a certain system, you live a certain way. And so it's really scary. I'm always the one that pushes people like, you guys are doctors. So if you fail, oh my gosh, you can go and get another job. I promise you. But what if you don't? And that's where like me and Leo have seen so many physicians. Now, again, it's really easy for a physician in telemedicine to make the same mistakes that they made in clinic and like take
Mhm.
on 10 jobs and have all
Yeah.
this work and be so burnt out. So one of the things we really tell them is like, at least really try to focus on the stuff that you like to do. Don't make the same mistake and find pleasure and enjoyment in what you're doing. But it gives you a little bit more flexibility. But again, it's still kind of like a tricky, slippery slope.
Yeah, I think that's why it goes back to that design in the beginning, because you can find yourself just getting another job where
Yeah.
someone is still really dictating a lot of your life. Where I think deciding from the beginning, like, okay, I only want to do this type of work. I only want to work this many hours, this many days a week, and the rest of my time I'm going to be doing something else. It's really about the autonomy. And I feel like that's what really gives us that sense of satisfaction and fulfillment, even in the work that we're doing, knowing that we have that control.
You know, other doctors can argue, hey, this is what we went into our profession for, right? We are altruistic servers of the people, right? And you see that. You see that in conversations. You see that even just in posts. Oh, you doctors make too much. You should be open on the hours. You should be working in the weekends when everybody else is off. Why aren't you like that? You guys are so selfish, thinking about yourselves and your own family instead of the patients, which you have done an oath to serve. How dare you? How do you tell people to get over that?
This is one of the privileges of being a nomadic doctor. Like 100% of my healthcare is outside of the US. It has been for the last 5 years. And out of the 17 countries I've lived in, my healthcare has been all over that. You don't learn more about a healthcare system than being a patient in there. And as
That's
a
right.
patient in all of these different countries, one thing I've learned is that medicine is practiced so differently in different places around the world. The way that a doctor will even show up, the way that they have space for the rest of their lives. Like, I remember when I was in France and I had like an urgent care kind of situation. I literally looked at my phone within 5 minutes. I had an appointment, a tele appointment with a French doctor. And at the end of the appointment, he was like, typically we don't charge each other even for taking the time to help each other and see each other in medicine. And I was
Really?
just like, what if we did that in the US? Like, this is like a
Because you
revelation.
were a doctor, they were like, "Hey, this is professional courtesy. I'm gonna see ya." That is ridiculous. That's wild, right? That's
Yeah,
unheard of here.
exactly. It's that piece has even more so just opened up my mind to recognizing that medicine is meant to be different ways. It can look different ways. And just because we've been groomed and trained in one approach to how a doctor's life looks, doesn't mean we have to continue that path.
That's amazing. And now, when you practice in your different countries, do you see patients from different countries, or do you see patients back in the US?
Back in the US.
You do?
So yeah, I have a consultation business and I just see patients in the States where I'm licensed.
And we get this question a lot is like, "Hey, I wanna do what Dr. Goins says. I want to be somewhere else." And
Right.
some companies don't allow you to do that, right? But how do you make it work and with the constructs of, like, basically law, right? You can't see Medicare patients, right?
No, I only
Yeah.
do cash based.
Got it, got it. And it makes it work, right?
Yeah. But I think cash based in general is just easier. Like there's just a
Oh,
lot
yeah.
to tape in general. For me, the best way to go about it is really just to have your own business and your own practice. Cause that way you really get to whether you want to have your own patient panel or whether you want to contract with other, clinics or institutions through your own professional LLC. I think that's the best way to maintain your autonomy where you get to choose your compensation, where you get to choose your patients, where you get to choose your schedule and your time. I think having full autonomy is the best way for me to practice medicine and to really show up for my patients the most as fully as I can. And so I think for doctors, even if telework or remote work or even hybrid, if that's something that was amenable to them and something that they want to do just to have more time and location flexibility, then I think having your own business where you get to make those decisions for yourself rather than being an employee is the way to go.
Yeah, and now are there some areas that are better than others working when you're out? Or, what other considerations do you need to have if you're gonna pack up and go and live the life of a nomad around the world?
I mean, you want to think about tax, things like
Yeah.
that. If you're going to be spending, let's say, more than 6 months a year in a particular location, you do want to think about taxes. But I found that living abroad is very tax favorable, particularly because I don't stay in places more than 6 months. But I think that's probably one of the biggest concerns. You want to think about things like if you're working for an employer, obviously, like
Mhm.
what's allowed, what isn't, especially if you're going to work with different insurance companies.
Yeah.
I think if you're bypassing all of those things, there's not a lot of consideration other than maybe controlled substances or things like that that you just want to be thinking about in terms of the EA regulations and all of those kinds of things. But I think if you connect with, and I connect all of my clients with really amazing telemedicine attorneys, I think once you know you have the okay and dealing with folks who do this all the time and don't make it seem like it's this weird thing. If you talk to other doctors who are very traditional, it's like, what are you doing? That doesn't make sense. That's not allowed. But when you're connecting with other professionals who do this day in and day out, and they know all the rules and regulations and the flexibility that you really have as a physician, I think there's not a lot of things that really come up as barriers.
Actually, that's a good point as well. We've talked to a lot of people and they're like, "Hey, I was told this can't happen." Or talking about attorneys, they get hooked up with just regular health attorneys, right?
Yeah.
And they get some of the wildest kind of advice, right? And you're like, "No, that's not right." That's important. Yeah, finding the right people that know what they're doing and is conducive to your lifestyle and actually can give you the right advice. So, definitely, I think that's huge. Kinda going back, the boring issue about taxes in, like, 6 months, is there a six-month kind of time frame that if you stay longer in a location and make money more than 6 months, are you kinda taxed more, or how does that work?
It really depends on the country that you're in. Like some countries have territorial taxation, so
Mm,
automatically they don't tax any money that is not being made within their country, but other countries don't have that. So it really depends on which country you're in. But For the most part, most countries that aren't going to be territorial taxes, they will tax you because you become like a resident there after 6 months,
Got it.
like after a
Okay.
specific number of times.
Got it. And now can you leave and come back? Like,
Yeah.
5 months and 29 days, you take off for a week and then you're like, "Oh, I'm back." And then the clock
Yeah.
starts.
Usually it's over the year. Like usually they
Got it.
have, okay, you can't be here more than 183 days
Got it.
within the 365. So you don't really want to play those
Yeah.
games at the
Yeah.
border
A
before
true
which
nomad,
one
you're
it
like,
is.
packing up and go. You're right. I stepped over, I stepped around, I'm like, "Oh, I'm back now." It's
Yeah.
restarted. Okay, there goes that idea. So, are you moving every 6 months in, or are you moving so you don't meet that criteria?
I'm really moving because I like to move. Like I
Yeah.
just literally within the last 48 hours came back from living in Italy. So I'm kind of jet lagged right now. But for me, it's a mixture of different things. One, I like going back to the same countries every once in a while because I like to deepen my relationships that I've already
Yeah.
started building there. Then I like to have a place that I explore that's new every year. And then I also study wine. So I want to be in certain wine regions that I haven't gone to. And then I follow the sun. So I don't believe in winter. So then I also have to leave when it gets cold. So it's a force by force. I need to leave.
That's amazing. We're getting on time. Now, you started a coaching business, right? And you obviously know what you're talking about. This is amazing. If people want to get in contact with you, how can they tap into your wealth of knowledge and try to get your coaching and connect with you?
They can follow me on Instagram at the Nomad MDs. They can follow me on Facebook at the Nomad MDs and my website, thenomadmd.com.
And what kind of services do you offer through the Nomad MD?
So I offer one-on-one coaching with doctors who are looking for time and location flexibility, whether that means that they want to get direct remote contracts with other clinics or institutions, or whether they want to start their own location independent businesses.
Got it. So you help them build their business.
Yeah.
Got it. So, and what I'm hearing is that you have resources to help them connect, kind of get them jump started. So
Yes.
not just the education, but also plant the seed to get 'em. It's amazing. You know how many
Yes.
people would want that? And so many people talk about it and they talk about, hey, I want to go here for a few months. I want to go back to here. And not a lot of people know how to do that. So that's amazing. And I love your socials. It's so freeing. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's so cool. And just talking to you right now, you're like all over the place, just visiting countries and gosh, talking to so many people. They want that, but they don't know how to get there.
Yeah.
And it's a pipe dream and you make it real. So that's amazing. One last question we always ask is, hey, think about you intern day 1 and going back to that person, knowing what you
Mhm.
know now in your experiences. And really, this is anything. What would you tell, day 1 intern Dr. Goins to do? What's the best piece of advice you could give her?
Relax, girl. Just relax. Like, I think we have so much anxiety built up about where we're going and what's next and who we're
Yeah.
going to be in this career. And I would just tell myself that everything's going to be fine. I'm going to end up exactly where I need to be. So just like enjoy the ride and relax.
Yeah, you talk to those interns, right? And you remember back in the day, the bright-eyed, doe-eyed, but very, very anxious people,
Yes.
pockets full of everything, and it's just,
That was
you
me.
know right, right. Remember the 5 little books that you had, and, like, you were weighed down with your little itty-bitty, now the, like, bigger white coat,
Right.
and you're like, "Oh gosh," it was a stress ball,
It
and
was.
yeah. I'm stoked. One, super happy that you found kind of your life calling and you're actually willing to share that. I think a lot of people would benefit from what you have to say and your knowledge. So thank you so much for joining us. This is great. I look forward and to continue to follow you and hopefully continue this kind of discourse offline and to just connect to different people. So thank you
For
so much.
sure. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. And for those listening out there, thank you so much. Always thankful. If you want to get in contact with us, info@telemedicinetalks.com, leo@telemedicinetalks.com. And we will also forward Dr. Goins' info so you could get in contact with her. wherever she is in the world, and really just listening to her stories is amazing. So thank you so much. Until next time, thank y'all.